It is roughly 30 hours until the launch of Bless NA Founders Edition Head Start, and here is a compilation of all of the resources and knowledge that you will need to be successful on the first day of launch. So first of all, we've got the playlist from Aces of Spades, who is a very knowledgeable player from Blush Japan here, and he's got a whole playlist of videos breaking down different aspects of Bless Online, and you can scroll through and say, I just want to know about one of these things, or watch the whole thing. I believe the playlist is around an hour long, definitely worth a watch if you have the time. Next is the Bless subreddit here. Now there's a lot of contention about whether the Bless subreddit is trustworthy or not, and I would say for the most part it's actually not, but you do occasionally find some diamonds in the rough, so to speak. Things like this map here is really useful. So it shows all of the elite spawns based on neutral, Hyron, or Union, as well as which ones drop weapons. Little crate down there. So overall, pretty useful resources. There's also a guild database, though I'm not quite sure how accurate it is. And there's also the guild recruitment mega thread if you are still looking for a guild. However, I say if you're looking for a guild this late into the game, you're already at a pretty big disadvantage in terms of day one planning. Next is a compilation of all of the footage from the preview event that we had on the 11th based on class. So you've got about 4 to 5 people playing each class, so you can get a different perspective on each of those. Some are in dungeons, some are just in the open world, some are in testing environments, like starting zones and stuff like that, but I believe all characters are set to a certain set of stats and level by default. Not entirely sure on that one. I would say it's just a good idea to see, what the class kind of looks like and what the skills feel like and how flashy it is and things like that. Next, we've got Bless Book here, which is primarily for the skills panel here. You can see how all of these stances work. Not all of them have their names, but these are basically ripped from the preview videos and turned into a nice little template for you to read easily. I believe this data is based off of CAR spreadsheet, but I'm not entirely sure. Some of them, some of the skills are not completed in terms of what they do and if they have a actual drop down, and so stuff like that, I wouldn't take it entirely on accuracy, but it's a good idea to look at in terms of looking at like potential chains that would be nice, or determining the flow of the spec that you want to play. They also have the party buff set up here, so you can see, for instance, if you want a support buff, you can see you need 3 party members and at least 1 ranger. For something like a life buff, if you want a gathering buff, you can see you need like, one of each of these races to get the gathering buff. So it's beneficial to have one of each race in your party at the very least, as that will give you the tier 6 of any party buff. Well, you need at least 4 out of 5. I'm not sure if they have to be in a specific order or not. I believe you have to have at least up to the human is how it works, but we're not entirely sure. Next, for your mounts and pets, this website tells you basically how to get mounts and pets, in the sense of, let's say you want this this pet here, you would upgrade any of these monsters to legendary status. It would give you this pet visually. So, it's still like your pet, it's just changed visually. That's kind of how the legendaries seem to work, similarly with mounts. So if you wanted a mount that looked like this Beastmaster Lobo, you would upgrade, like a bunch of steel paw wolf heads or brown maned wolves and so on until you got one. These are unobtainables, meaning like cash shop. here is a little interactive map. It's obviously not very complete. I would say it's actually lacking a lot of features, but it does have the main stuff like dungeons and major cities. So if you need an external map for whatever reason, it's there for you. Additionally, for elite spawns, you have, this is based on the JP elite spawns, but this website is really nice. It shows you all of the elites, what they look like in game, and where they're located on the map. If you don't like it in Japanese, you can Google Translate it, but I mean, honestly, I would almost recommend using the link to the first thing I showed you, or not the first, but the second thing I showed you, that map by a Reddit user, because it's just a little bit more clear and concise, unless you're hunting a specific elite, and then this is a lot more beneficial for you. So, that's about it for all of the, just generic resources that you can have as far as information. This covers most of the spectrum. I think, if anything, if you really just don't know anything about the game and you want to hop into it, I highly, highly recommend using this playlist here by Aces of Spades as your sort of bless primer, quote unquote. Maybe if you're a guild leader and you have people joining your guild, bam, this is a perfect primer to get anybody at least a little bit informed about the game and the mechanics of the game. Additionally, if you have any questions, you can always comment down on my YouTube videos, or I'll be streaming here at twitch.tv/mebless. My guild also did a podcast, which will likely be uploaded to YouTube soon. I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to check on that for y'all. Overall, I hope everybody has a very successful launch day, and I will post all of my sources in the description as always.